Hey YouTube, Mark Crawford here. I'm going to give you some information on trucking. This is basically entry-level kind of stuff, 101. How do you get a CDL? How do you get a job in trucking? That sort of thing. Uh, I went through a driving academy via one of the trucking companies, one of the major carriers, about 3 years ago. I already had a CDL, but I didn't have a air brakes endorsement, which you need. And I really didn't have any training. It was sink or swim at the time. I needed a job many years ago. The employer said, "Can you drive that truck?" It was a Power Stroke, a hot shot rig with a 36-foot flatbed. Of course, I was starving. I said, "Sure, I can drive that truck." Uh, After grinding a few gears, I got with it and eventually got my CDL in that truck. Although, one thing to point out, if you take a truck to get your CDL that doesn't have air brakes, they're not going to give you the air brakes endorsement. Simple as that. So keep that in mind. Now there's a couple of different ways to get your CDL. Basically, you can go to a private school and pay them. Typically, it might be anywhere from $1,200 to $6,000. It really depends on where you go and how fast the course is, and just a multitude of different factors. But that's the primary focus, is just to get the students in and spit them out. They really don't have any connection with them after that, like a trucking company. A trucking company will actually, and I'll talk about this here in a little bit more in detail, but some of the trucking companies will actually put you through school, and if you agree to work with them for a period of time, they don't charge you at all. So that's something to consider. When you're considering getting into trucking, one thing I would highly recommend is write down the criteria that I'm about to go over, and that way when you're talking to recruiters and searching online, looking for information, you can be well informed, because there's what looks great for one company may overshadow something that's not so great on that company. So as far as trucking companies, there's many out there now that offer training, and one of the things you might look at is, well, this one has a training facility close to my area, close to home. You don't necessarily want to get married to that, because typically in trucking, you can live wherever you want to. Most of the companies will dispatch you to your house when it's time for some home time, and it doesn't matter where you live. You could be in Maine, you could be in Florida, you could be in California. So don't put just a whole lot of emphasis on that, especially in light that most of the companies, well, I say most, roughly half or a little bit more, do offer to pay your transportation. So, for instance, say you live in Texas and you want to take a training from a company that's only holding training in for instance, Arizona. Well, typically they'll give you a bus ticket. Some companies will actually give you upwards of $150 or so. Then you can apply that towards a plane ticket if you want. You can pay the rest. But most companies, they'll set you up with a bus ticket. So you want to check that out. They'll also set you up in a hotel, typically. Some academies have living arrangements on site, but that's very few. Most of them have arrangements with local hotels, and so they'll put you up. Typically, they're going to put you up with another driver, especially when you're just starting out. They're saving money and so forth. They'll pay for that. Now, when I say they pay for it, you're paying for it, but they're paying for it up front for you, as well as your bus ticket, like I said. And like I said, I went to a major carrier, and it was several weeks of cramming, like you wouldn't believe. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to go to a trucking company, or I'm not going to go to a CDL course that's only 3 or 4 weeks long. That's crazy. But the truth of the matter is, we were hitting the books from 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 p.m. And every day when we went home or went to the hotel, we went to the hotel with lots of work to do, lots of reading, lots of material to cover. So when we came back to class, we were expected to know that. It wasn't covered in class that day. This is just extra curriculum. So they really, they require you to work hard. When you show up for the first day of the class, you're basically signing papers and you're becoming a employee, so to speak, in a literal sense, and you're treated that way. You're expected to work, even though it's a classroom type atmosphere. I would highly encourage you to, if you do that, to pay attention and work as hard as you can. Study. Don't take it lightly. There are a lot of things that you're only going to learn on the road with your trainer, that sort of thing. But while you're in class, knuckle down and do the best you can. How much does it cost? Well, up front, it typically anywhere from $0 to $200. Like I said, they'll pay for your transportation, they'll pay for your hotel. Some of the companies will even pay for breakfast and lunch, leaving you with just dinner at night. The actual courses can run anywhere from $1,000 to $6,000, depending on where you go, depending on what type of arrangements they have, and so forth. The contracts are usually a year. There's some a little bit more, 16 or 18 months. And what that means is they expect you to work for them in return for educating you for that length of time. Several of the companies, or some of the companies, will actually, well, let me back up a little bit. What they do is once you're through with school and you're through with your trainer, you go out on the road for several weeks. Typically it's for X number of backings and X number of hours behind the wheel. And usually that'll take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. Once you're through with that, then you're on a regular paycheck, and they'll start deducting out of your check to pay back that bus ticket, that hotel, and your tuition. Usually that's anywhere from $30 to $50. And again, that's per week. Most of the trucking companies pay per week, and usually it's automatic deduction or automatic deposit in your bank. So anyway, they do that, and then some of the companies, like I said, the one I went with, they do that for a year. After a year, if you're still working with them and you continue, they start paying you. So it's just in reverse. So in a sense, after you've been there 2 years, then your tuition's free. Some companies, on the other hand, don't take any tuition out as long as you work for the company for 12 months. And like I said, you just have to Google, browse around, and find the differences in them. I'm just trying to let you know some of the criteria to look for and ask the recruiters about. The training sessions are anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks total, and as classroom. Some of the companies will actually, well, I say 6 to 8 weeks. It's like anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks in classroom. They're all different. Then you're on the road anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, really. But the classroom portion of it is typically not paid. They don't pay you for it. There's very few companies that do, but the majority do not. So be prepared for that. Although, if you mind your P's and Q's, there's no time for partying or spending money when you're in the class. I mean, you're really, after you're hitting the books, you're ready to go to sleep, and the next morning you're getting up at 5, hitting some breakfast, the bus picks you up, right back to the training facility all over again. So it's fast paced, but I really enjoyed it. I really got a lot out of it. Now, the over the road portion is the portion where you go out with a trainer. Obviously, they're not going to send you out a $150,000 vehicle being a student with no experience right out of school. So they'll send you out with a trainer, and that's where you start to get a paycheck, but it's not actual trucking pay, like cents per mile, like most people are aware of. Typically, it's going to be more like minimum wage plus a few bucks if you're driving, or it'll be a flat rate per week, or there's different variations, but typically amounts to around $300 to $500, $300 to $600, depending on the company. Anyway, that's some of the criteria. If you'll go to the next video, I'm going to cover some of the things to look for in preparation for postgraduate. And that's something that you want to consider with these companies before you actually sign up and go to their academy. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, click like. If you don't forget to subscribe, and you'll be aware of my new videos. I intend to start putting up trucking videos to help others. It's always great with to get some advice from somebody that's been there. I'll try to do the best I can, and anyway, see you on the next video. God bless.